The cruel manifestation of British bureaucratic inefficiency in the Home Office is in the handling of the visa extensions for Ukraine refugees. This isn't just about paperwork, it's about people's jobs, homes, dignity being put in unnecessary jeopardy because of a system so convoluted that even those who administer it seem unsure about how it works. This is the Home Office simply doesn't function. Let's be very clear about that. It's unaccountable, it's inaccessible, and it doesn't work. And when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in early 2022, the UK rightly extended a hand of support to those fleeing the war, and through schemes such as Homes for Ukraine programme, thousands found refuge in Britain, settling into jobs, education and community. But now, 2 years on, many of these refugees face the very real prospect of losing everything that they built, not due to conflict, but because of the needless bureaucratic oversight that leaves them in limbo. And at the heart of the problem is the Home Office's failure to implement an automatic visa extension process. Instead of a simple administrative rollover, Ukrainian refugees are expected to submit applications for renewal. That means that from February to June, when most Ukrainian refugees first arrived in 2022, the Home Office will now be inundated with tens of thousands of renewal requests. And given its well-documented struggles with backlog processing, this is a recipe ripe for disaster. The consequences of this short-sighted approach are already becoming clear. Employers and landlords require up-to-date visa documentation, but given the estimated 8-week processing time, many refugees will be left unable to prove their right to live and work in the UK, and some have already lost jobs or been denied tenancy renewals, all because of a gap in the system that was entirely preventable and that is yet another demonstration of the Home Office's stupidity and absurdity and unfitness for purpose. And it doesn't matter what twit is in charge. It doesn't matter whether it's Yvette Cooper, Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, James Cleverly, or Theresa May. It doesn't matter. All of these individuals are hopeless in their own right, but the Home Office itself is a bureaucratic monster of inefficiency. Consider the case of Petro Venko, chair of the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain. He describes that uncertainty is fueling panic, with scammers preying on vulnerable refugees, charging exorbitant fees to fast-track applications that should never have been delayed in the first place. Meanwhile, grassroots organisations like Birmingham for Ukraine and the Brahma Trust in Solihull are reporting a surge in distress calls from refugees at risk of eviction or job loss. And the system, far from protecting those in need, is actively undermining their ability to live stable lives. The comparison with Europe is stark. Many EU nations have automatically extended visas for Ukrainian refugees until at least the spring of 2025, and the UK, in contrast, continues to make life as difficult as possible. Refugees like Mila from Kharkiv who has already endured the trauma of displacement, now find themselves unable to secure new accommodation because their visa status is in limbo. Families who should be focusing on rebuilding their lives are instead navigating a Kafkaesque nightmare of expired paperwork and bureaucratic delays. Why? Because Yvette Cooper is happy like that. Beyond the immediate crisis, the government's failure to offer a long-term pathway to settlement further exacerbates the problem. Unlike many other refugee groups, Ukrainians and Britons are not on a route to citizenship, despite having lived and worked here for nearly 3 years. The notion that 4.5 years of residency should be treated as temporary is absurd. Many Ukrainians have no homes to return to. Cities like Mariupol don't exist anymore. They've been razed to the ground, and occupied regions have been forcibly Russified. Yet the UK government seems reluctant to acknowledge that these individuals are now, for all practical purposes, permanent residents. The Home Office's response has been predictably tone-deaf. A spokesperson stated that the UK has offered sanctuary to over 300,000 Ukrainians and is providing certainty and security through the extension scheme. What rot! How does an 8-week period of joblessness and potential homelessness constitute security? How does a renewal system so opaque that even fluent English speakers struggle to navigate it properly with any certainty. How can you deal with a ministry that vaguely says that it takes 40 days to answer a letter, and yet can't answer a letter within 60? The solutions are obvious. The government should immediately implement automatic visa extensions, following the precedent set by EU states. This would eliminate the unnecessary stress placed on refugees, landlords and employers alike. Additionally, the government must provide a clear pathway for permanent residency. These individuals have contributed to Britain's workforce and communities, and many in skilled professions. Yet they're being treated as transient guests rather than valued members of society. In the grand scheme of things, Britain's handling of the Ukrainian refugee crisis is yet another example of the Home Office's chronic inability to manage their paperwork, to manage immigration competently. From the Windrush scandal to the Rwanda deportation fiasco, the department has repeatedly demonstrated a preference for punitive, needlessly complex systems over humane, functional policy. It is a hopeless, unworking, lazy institution. In this case, the solution is simple, but it requires political will and a shift away from the obsession with deterrence-based immigration policy and just the absurdity of its own bureaucracy. We often speak of Britain as a nation that stands for fairness, stability, and generosity. Well, not in the Home Office. The treatment of Ukrainian refugees is proving otherwise. It is time to stop forcing these individuals into an unnecessary state of limbo. We must demand a visa system that prioritises people over process. Anything less is an embarrassment to the values that we claim to uphold. The Home Office, if it can't erase itself immediately and be replaced by something that works, should at least make some effort to do its job.